And with that, I'm just gonna give it to her. And Shilpa, there you go.
Hello, everyone. It is such a privilege to be here. And thank you for this opportunity, Kajal. I love talking and I love making connections. So, anytime I can scale that up and reach multiple people at the same time, I think it's a win win. And just a little bit about myself. As you all know, I'm Shilpa, and I am currently a senior product manager at Google. In addition to that, I am also an interview and career coach at shilpavir.com. And I am also bootstrapping my second startup with Zero Entropy Solutions. Now, prior to Google, I have worked with many different companies, both big and small: eBay, Microsoft, HP, Yahoo, to name a few, as well as startups from the ground up. I'm currently a group lead in Women in Product South Bay, and that's a community with over 500 product managers. I write on Medium when I get some time, and I'm currently considered a top writer on Medium in Women in Tech category. And finally, I've been speaking at several different industry events, and this year will be my sixth time speaking at Grace Hopper, and the topic is going to be Nail Your Behavioral Interviews. And I'm hoping that I'll meet some of you in those sessions. So let's jump right in. By the way, did you notice that was my elevator pitch? And what is an elevator pitch? An elevator pitch is a quick synopsis of your background and experience. The reason it's called an elevator pitch is that it should be short enough to present during a brief elevator ride. Now, yes, given the coronavirus, we are all sitting at home and nobody is taking elevator rides anywhere. But Grace Hopper is coming, and so are several other industry events. In addition, you are probably in the process of emailing a lot of people about getting referrals or finding out information about positions in their company. And elevator pitch is basically a pitch that you can use to break the ice and get the conversation going. Now, a few things before we get into specifics of or specific examples of elevator pitch, I want to talk about a few do's and don'ts of elevator pitch. Whenever we are writing an elevator pitch, we want to keep it succinct. Why? Because if it's too big, people will lose interest. Imagine a recruiter or a hiring manager who is in the virtual room in Grace Hopper and has to talk to 200 people a day. That lengthy speech is not going to hold their attention. They're going to tune out. So you want to keep it succinct. The other thing that I see in elevator pitches all the time is that people come in and they tell about themselves, but they don't make a clear ask. I have seen so many examples. A lot of you submitted your elevator pitch. And one thing that stood out to me in several different examples is I have no idea if you are looking for a full-time position or an internship. The ask was not clear to me. And so go ahead and make that clear ask, or what is that step, or what is the help that you're looking for from this person that you're talking to or emailing to. Try to be memorable and sincere. I mean, if I have to hear the same pitch over and over and over again, there is just no differentiation. And I will not remember one person from the other. The best I can do is take your resume and put it in a pile, either writing sweep, PM, data science, and that's about it, and answer your generic questions, which are also super, super common. And there is nothing to remember you by, right? Then another important thing is to not come across as scripted or stilted. You have to come across as effortless, conversational, natural. This is very important when you're talking to a person on video or in person. If you come across scripted, the conversation doesn't flow very well. If I came to you and started saying, do keep it succinct, make a clear ask, try to be memorable and sincere, make it sound effortless, you're like, okay, I'm tuned out completely. But if I talk to you and incorporate examples, talk about my experiences, ask about your questions, make it interactive, that conversation flows very well. And I sometimes remember that. And the other important part that basically this leads to is your elevator pitch is not a monologue that you have to just start and end and give all of it. It's basically a structure for the key points that you want to communicate during that course of conversation, which means if you don't fit everything in your first line, that's fine. Just make sure that you have communicated X, Y, and Z, the top 2 or 3 things that you want to communicate during that course of that introductory conversation. Which is why you will have to create multiple versions of it also. Long version, short version. Have one that you have practiced enough that you can be natural and effortless while saying it, but do have all the other supporting points ready so that depending on where the conversation goes, you can pivot and add certain details. And I've been talking about effortless and natural, but it is very important to project a passion for what you do. One incident, I was back in Yahoo, and this is over 10 years ago. We were interviewed a person for a particular role. It was an entry-level role. This girl comes in, and on paper, she's all good. When we are trying to ask her the questions, technically she's okay, but there was no personality in the sense that we were getting uncomfortable talking to her to the point that we ultimately walked her out. And you guys are not robots. You guys are humans. So bring that human personality in, show passion for what you're doing. Just have a regular conversation if you could. Incorporate examples and stories. And I understand that your elevator pitch, I'm telling you to keep it succinct in the first point, and then I'm talking about examples and stories. But I will show you in a couple examples how you can do that and still keep it short. And in addition, like I said, you can keep those examples and stories ready. You don't have to say all of those in the first go, but as the conversation progresses, you can put in those examples and stories as well. And like I already said, you have to practice. I know these are not really flowing in a line or something because I just put it together, but I hope these are some tips that you would use to make your elevator pitches interesting, engaging, and memorable.
Hey,
I already talked about, yeah.
Your slides are not visible. Can you put it on present mode? It's stuck on the first slide.
Oh, it is? Let me see. I'm going to share my entire screen then. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to share my entire screen, and hopefully that will work. I apologize, guys. Let's see. Can you see it now?
Yes, now it's good. Thank you.
All right. So just to go over it again, keep it memorable, keep it engaging, keep it natural, and keep it short. Yes, I'd already talked about not coming across as scripted, but also don't write an epic that cannot hold people's attention. That does not mean you don't start with it. Start with the epic, figure out what is the core essence of you, and put that in the starting elevator pitch, and keep everything else as your supporting examples and stories that you can use as the conversation progresses. Some people just come in and they are on a mission. I'm going to go and deliver my pitch and nothing can stop me. And so off they go at the speed of a rocket and just give out their pitch. Try not to do that. I understand that some of us feel a little shy. Some of us feel a little nervous and intimidated. And when I have seen that when people are nervous, they tend to either speak very fast or they tend to just freeze. Speaking faster is better than freezing, yes. But one way to get past that is to practice in front of a friend and then start practicing in front of more and more people and gradually become comfortable talking about yourself. Yeah, I know it is very hard to talk about ourselves for a lot of us. I can easily talk about Kajal and all the amazing things she does. When it comes to me, I'm going to be like, am I bragging? Is it too much? And it does take a while to get comfortable talking about your accomplishments, your unique selling points. And so just leverage your friends. If you can, record yourself. When I started with public speaking, I hated myself when I looked in the camera. It was very hard for me to see my own speeches, but you have to face it, you have to do it, and that tremendously helped me. So if you struggle with either feeling confident or rambling or freezing or have any kind of anxiety around it, record yourself, see it, get in the habit of it, ask your friends for help. I also see several.
Question for you from the audience. Should you only talk about your professional experiences and projects, or should you also mention your hobbies?
It depends if they're relevant or not. The same thing goes with resume creation also. If it is relevant, you can add it. I actually, and sometimes your core experience could be super technical and you don't want to come across as robot, so you can add in a fun fact here and there. I have had a client who has very specific experience, but her elevator pitch starts as coffee lover, globe-trotting, pre-COVID, and jazz-loving entrepreneur who does XYZ. So she brings in some personality. So it really depends on who you are talking to, what is the context, and whether or not those things are relevant, or whether or not they provide a relief to your otherwise super technical pitch. It needs to feel right. It needs to land right. I think that's the main thing. I also saw some pitches that some of you submitted. It had acronyms like CPG and whatnot, and I did not know what those meant. And so they might be very important, but if the other person cannot understand you, then they have lost their meaning and they've lost their power, their impact. So try not to put too much jargon and acronyms. Yes, AI, ML, everybody understands. CS, everybody understands. That's the nature of the event you're going in. So those kind of events are fine. Things are fine. But CIP, SSG, listener, I'm like, oh, what is that? I have no idea. I've never heard of it. And don't forget to include your comparative edge. I've seen some pitches here where they have done very specific type of work, which might be very relevant to certain companies. So go ahead and add that. If you have a unique comparative advantage, whether it's in terms of your education, your work experience, whatnot. In fact, I'll give you an example. Two of my clients, one of them had undergrad in Caltech and then master's in Stanford, and she was in the process of switching roles. And that whole point was just mentioned somewhere in the resume, but it was not in her elevator pitch. Her elevator pitch was all about her current work. And I asked to amplify that, and I said, talk about studying in Caltech and Stanford with some of the best minds in the country, and play that up a little bit, because her college work was in a startup, which was a pretty well-known startup, but not your top tier one brand name company. In contrast, another client of mine who was from Cal Poly, and Cal Poly is pretty good college too, but she had founded three companies during the 6 years that studies, as well as even high school. And I told her to amplify that, because it showed her entrepreneurial nature. It showed how she can take an idea from start to completion and generate revenue. And they were all running businesses. She used to like create teams, and those businesses are all running while she's studying. So that showed a different kind of person. And I said, don't worry about Cal Poly and your GPA and all those things that much. Bring those things up and kind of talk about that a little bit more. So whatever your comparative advantage is, you want to play that up. You want to lead with your strength a little bit. Now, I'm going to pause here for a minute before I go into specifics, specific examples of elevator pitches and see if there are any big questions.
Sure. So, one question we have is, now that the career fairs are virtual and we would have to type in our elevator pitch versus talking, is there anything different we should do when you're putting it in a chat?
It's kind of hard to show passion a little bit in the chat, right? That's one of the big things that I'm thinking about. And also, if it's too big, people are going to have a hard time reading it. So maybe chunk it and start with something, and that's going to be the main thing. Because if it's too big, they'll read a little bit, but then after that, they're like, okay, I cannot read these 5-page stories. So
Yeah, so keep it
I
short and
think
crisp and fun.
yeah, the brevity is going to be very important. And because you're not there to convey your passion through your eyes, your body language, it's important to show that through the choice of words. In fact, I think let's go into our first example because I think I can talk about that a little bit more in that example. So thank you for all for submitting so many elevator pitches. We selected 2 and we did a before and after. And again, I'm not saying that my version is perfect because I do not know these people and I do not know if what I have written is correct for them. But I have taken a stab at if I was writing something similar, how would I try to position that? So by no means a perfect elevator pitch, but just something that I was trying to do. So this is a first elevator pitch. I'll give you a minute to read it, and then I'll talk about a few things here that left me a little, not exactly puzzled, but left me a little like, maybe this area could be improved. And first, let me see if any of you can pick up something that should or should not be here.
Yeah, feel free to put it in the chat as to what from this pitch speaks out to you, or what is it that you think could be reword. Give us your opinions, and of course, we have the expert Shilpa to, bring in her opinion and insight that could help you.
And Kajal, let me know because I can't chat. So let me know when you think people have put in what they need to, and after that we can continue.
I'm still waiting to hear back. People are putting in some questions. Let's just go with your insight, and then we can bring in
Oh,
people's insight.
great. So when I was reading this pitch, I was reading this line. I was originally born in England, but we moved here when I was 1 year old due to my dad's engineering career. So I unfortunately never caught the British accent, and I just kept wondering why that was relevant to put in the elevator pitch. Is it because she is actually, or she or he is actually applying to a company in Britain? And they are not coming across as British enough. Is that what by the explanation? I could not figure out the need to put that line in the elevator pitch. Then I also noticed that she says that her dad passed away when she was 9, and she still wanted to follow his footsteps in engineering, and computer science connects to all discipline within the field. Hence why I chose it. And I'm assuming she's a female because we are talking about Grace Hopper attendees. So apologies if this is a male. Now, I empathize, but this can make some people quite uncomfortable, especially because they don't know you. If I don't know you and you start with this, I don't know whether I should offer my condolences, offer you my support, or ignore it. Like, there is no right way to respond, or at least there is no clarity in my mind as to how do you want this, how does this person want me to respond. And in a professional setting, it can make things a little bit awkward. So as much as I empathize, unless it is super relevant, if she was talking about this is the reason why I chose this particular gene therapy research, or I would recommend that don't put it in the very first conversation. If it is super important to you, bring it up a little bit later.
So
I also saw.
bring in something from the comments. A lot of people are saying the same thing. They are not sure why this person is talking about the family or the British accent and how it brings relevance. And I just want to echo Shilpa's word. Yes, we empathize with you, but maybe this is not a conversation, first conversation at a career fair, because the other person is not expecting to hear you and you might catch them off guard and they may not know how to respond.
Right? The other thing that I noticed is this person has two minors, statistics and entrepreneurship, and they have done a good job of tying that whole thing together, but it's buried way at the end. This is her unique selling point. Most people have one major, one minor. She has two, and they are all relevant. They are both relevant minors. So I need to elevate those things a little bit up. So I took a stab at it. Again, not perfect, but I basically said, number one, make a clear ask, because I was not sure when she was graduating, by the way, in this. And it says fourth year, so I'm guessing that it's spring 2021. And I'm guessing that that means she's looking for a full-time job. But there is no idea. There is nothing here that tells me what is she's looking for. So I took a stab and said, I'm graduating from Ohio State University in spring 2021 and looking for X, whatever that X might be. My major is computer science and engineering. So yeah, there's a typo, sorry. With a specialization in AI due to my interest in human-computer interaction. And yes, if it was important to you to point your connection with engineering, I respected that by putting it a little bit, by hinting it a little bit. But again, I'm not a fan of this line because the your passion doesn't come through that way. It looks like you did it to honor somebody else. It wasn't something that naturally spoke to you, or something that you were passionate about. So even though I put this line, I'm not a fan of this line here. So if I were writing it for myself, I would probably not mention this here. Actually, fun fact, I went into a particular engineering school to honor my dad. My dad studied his engineering, never finished it. And so it was very important to me, and all of my entire family were doctors. And so I was adamant that I wanted to be an engineer, and not just any engineer. I actually wanted to go to the same school. And so I went to the same school where he started, and I finished. And I said, one of us will finish this. But I never bring that up in my elevator pitches. It is not relevant. So I get where you're coming from. I know how important it might be to you, but I would not put this line up here. And then I said, along with the CS, I've taken not one, but two minors. And by saying that, I'm kind of putting that impact there. And then I talk about why I've taken certain minors. And then I end it all. So I want to get your opinion on whether this feels better.
So from the comments, we
Kajal,
again, yeah, from the comments, we are definitely getting what you're echoing, that, have that clear ask. With the earlier pitch, people weren't sure what this person wants. So having that being like, I am looking for full-time positions or my domain is HCI makes things a little bit easier.
Yeah. Now let's move on to the second pitch. Oh, and this was the side-by-side comparison, so you guys can see. And also, if you were typing it, by the way, now look at that paragraph and say, oh, I have to read that, versus a little bit more palatable small chunks that you can type and people can easily read.
I will add all of these
Okay.
in the description below. So anyone who's checking this video out later, it makes it easier for you to see things.
Now let's move on to the second example. It's actually not a bad pitch. It is actually pretty decent. But here are my concerns with this particular pitch. This person is a rising senior at University of Washington studying public health and informatics. Growing up, parents pushed to pursue so again, assuming that it's a girl, so apologies here for any assumptions that I'm making. But grew up to have a passion for healthcare, then got a Fitbit, became fascinated. End of sophomore year, finally gained the courage to tell your parents. Turned down a nursing school offer, began involved. Currently a hackathon director and mentor, and looking for hands-on industry experience. Okay, there is a story here, and barring some elements, it's actually a decent story. But the thing that I have the biggest problem is parents are pushing you to do X, so you're doing this. You have to find courage to tell your parents. So it feels like your parents are the one driving your career. It's not really something that you really are passionate about. So I challenge this line of growing up having a passion for healthcare. Did you really? And probably you did, but the way you are saying the story, I am questioning that. And so I'm also questioning now, is this also again something that your parents are doing it and you're just not telling me? Why public health and informatics? I Is there still a reason why you're being pursuing public health if you don't want to do that? Like so many questions that came up to me. Kajal, would you have any kind of concerns here?
Yeah, I would agree with you on the same, as to, as with this pitch, you're bringing in your parents and then you're going into a conversation of what happening between your parents and you, versus I'm interested in knowing your relationship with healthcare and not the parents element. Just say you're passionate, and maybe that passion started with when you first encountered Fitbit and the whole diabetics came into the picture. That's the story here. But the parents took the whole spotlight away from you, and then you are just like, the conversation is now not going to be about healthcare and your input into it. It's going to be about you and your parents relationship. That is not something a recruiter wants to know. Maybe over a cup of
Yeah,
coffee sometime in the future, but not right now.
and you're not coming across as a leader here, by the way. We need people who can, and by the way, when we are hiring people, we are looking for leadership potential. Leadership doesn't mean leading other people. Leadership means leading yourself, being that self-driven, not needing hand holding, knowing where you're trying to go. And so this is not putting you in a good light, and you might be a wonderful person, but it's kind of hiding behind the story. So let's take a look at what I tried to do with that. And
Echo some
I
words that are coming in from the chat. Everyone likes about this pitch that it's way more organized and that there's a story. It's a hidden story, but it's
yeah,
there. So, kudos for
there
that.
is a story. Yeah. And like I said, barring some elements, the story is actually good. So let's see how we can actually leverage that story. And so here I'm saying that you always had passion for healthcare and you were going to do this. But when you saw the impact that technology can have on health, you realized what potential it has, and you try to pivot slightly so that you can impact the same domain at a larger scale. And then what I was not clear on reading the first one is, when they did turn down the nursing school offer, did they change their major? Did they change their coursework? How did they change their education? And I was also not sure whether they were looking for an internship or not. Because she said, I'm looking for hands on industry experience where I can acquire the knowledge or take something from concept to reality. And I did not know, I have no idea when she's graduating. I have no idea what she needs. So there are still some gaps here.
Yeah, I think one thing that both of us would like to say is, whenever you're giving a pitch, especially at a career fair, even with all the special words you want to use, make sure to mention, I am graduating at X date. I am looking for full time positions or internship. Like, just say it straight off the bat. It makes it so much easier to not look for that information and accordingly even judge rest of your resume. Because if you're going for an internship, the bar is a little different than for a full time position.
And they might have you talk to a different person. There might be an intern specialist, there might be a full-time specialist. Which pile does your resume go to? Who reads it is probably different based on what you want. So any feedback on this, guys?
So feedback is coming in terms of definitely better for the structure. And there's a question coming in as to, should you say that, are you looking for internship or full time? Yeah, definitely. Make it like absolutely clear that you're looking for internship in summer of 2021 or looking for full time starting December 2020. No mystery to be kept here. Just say it out loud. And then the next question we have is, given it's a virtual elevator pitch, how long should it be? Like, should it be 4, 5 sentences? Should it be 3 to 4 minutes, 6 minutes? What's your take on that, Shilpa?
No 6 minutes. That should be your entire material that you can then selectively choose from. But I think this is a good enough size that you can read without getting completely bored and like what's going on. And then they can ask you more questions. It's a hook basically. Your elevator pitch should be a hook, because the way it started was executives would be going up taking the ride, and people who wanted jobs, they will get in the elevator and they'll try to catch their attention. And if after reaching the floor the executive said, okay, come over and tell me more, your pitch was successful. And that's what we are trying to do here. It's a hook and saying, should I would love to talk more. And then when they say, yeah, tell me more, then that pitch is successful. So these were the two examples, and now side by side over here, as you can see, that mine feels a little bit longer, but that's fine, and you can always make it smaller. But the story has to be about you, not what you were told to do, not why you did, why somebody else had so much impact that you did. It's like college essays. Your college essay can be about a person you were influenced for, but it needs to be talking more about what that influence was on you, not why the other person was influential.
Yeah.
Right? The essay is about you.
Yeah, it's not about why, but how it impacted you and what it resulted in. So, a question coming in from the audience is, there's a person who's going to be graduating in spring 2021 and they'll be looking for full-time position from spring 2021, but they are also looking to do an internship as their final semester. So, how should they put that?
You can say, while I'm looking for full-time position starting spring 2021, I'm also I'm also very open to having an internship right away to to accelerate my learning. And so either an internship now or a full-time opportunity in spring 2021, um, like they should talk about it in those terms. Like you have to have a stack ranking. You need to know what's bigger ask for you. And I'm guessing that the full-time role is probably a bigger ask. But you can say, but while I'm waiting for that to happen, while I'm waiting for my graduation to happen, I also have time right now, which I would love to utilize to get even more experience via an internship.
Yeah, like Shilpa said, be what is more important to you. If it's full-time position, start with that and then say, I'm also open to doing an internship during the last semester or, between now and spring 2021. Okay, another question. Let's just do two more. So one, and if anyone has one more, put it in. So the question is, can I speak about upcoming courses I will be taking in fall 2020?
You can, but you've not yet taken. So if you don't have anything that catches attention up until now, then you can probably add that. Or you can say, or if there is a recent development that you've taken on a specialization and you're looking forward to attending certain courses, then you can add a little bit more details also. Yeah, you could. So it again depends on what other thing you have in your elevator pitch, and does having this adding it make it better or not. Just like any resume, the key test of whether something belongs in your elevator pitch or resume is, remove it and see if that value goes down. If added doesn't add any value, you don't want it.
Yeah,
So what
great.
you already have there, that's the first thing compare. Like, what do I already have, and does it add? Does it elevate it?
So our last question for today is, if you're an undergrad attending GHC, how do you make the most out of it for a technical career? While Shilpa
Okay,
thinks
I'm
of
gonna.
that answer, I can say one thing is, network, make that connection, get to know people, look for information. If you're an undergrad and you're still not decided, at least if you're in the first few years of your undergrad and you're still figuring things out, use this time to figure out what all is there out there. Go to booths and ask like what kind of offer, like what kind of full-time positions you have in future. So you can start aligning yourself from now on. Up to you, Shilpa.
So remind me again. You are not yet looking. You're just attending the fair.
So the question goes, how to make most of GHC as an undergrad student and make it count for technical career.
Make connections. I think that's the best thing you can do. Is if one of the things that helps getting a job later is networking, right? But if you come to me at the very last minute looking for a favor, I might or might not have the bandwidth or interest in doing so. I On a daily basis, I get multiple people who reach out to me asking questions, and I would love to help everybody, but I just don't have the bandwidth. But if somebody has been engaging with me for a longer period of time and has built that name recognition, I was like, oh, Kajal, oh yeah, let me at least respond to her, right? In fact, I'll give you another story. Last year, after my workshop at Grace Hopper, there's this guy, Jacob. He reached out and sent me an email, and he talked about what he got from my workshop and how he was applying it. And I responded back and saying, is there any help he was looking for, any referral or something? And he said, no, 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 I'm not looking for anything. And I just want to ask if it's okay for me to send you an email every quarter and let you know how I am doing in my learning. Like, I just want to keep you updated on the things I'm learning about, and I'm not asking for anything. So every few months I get an email from him, and when he actually does ask me, I have no problems or no hesitation helping him because he has taken the time to build that connection with me, right? And so if you can start on that earlier, then it will make life a lot more easier when you actually need their help. Don't And the way I think about networking is, you don't network because you want to get something out of it. You network because you found somebody, either inspirational, or you learn something from them. And think about giving back before you ask. I know that it sounds like I'm asking you to do a lot of work, and the reality is, you will help 100 people, only five of them will help you back. But those five pieces of help would change the trajectory of your career. And you might say, how do I help this person? Well, nothing. If nothing else, just comment and share and like their post, like, subscribe to her channel, tell about her to others. And these things matter. These things matter because I cannot tell you how many people who read my post and then they tell me when they reach out to me, oh, I read your post. I'm like, then why didn't you comment on it? Why didn't you share it? Or like, why didn't you help me get the word out? Because sometimes they don't want their network to know all these nice resources or whatnot. And that mentality just turns me off. I have had people, I've actually turned down a couple clients because I notice their behavior and I want to encourage such behavior. So I don't want such clients, by the way. If you can't help your fellow people out, forget about like promoting me or anything. If you don't want to keep your knowledge to yourself and don't want to help others out, I don't want to any part in helping you go up your career. That's number one. But regardless, you sometimes all you can do is, thank you, it's a great post, or a great like, just comment on this video, for example, and Kajal will probably remember that.
Yes, 100%. And even I have similar stories that I have helped people out and, nothing, expecting nothing in return. And when I was looking for full-time positions, and they just somehow found out that I was into it without even me asking, they went and said, like, so I was working for one company and I was laid off, and then I was looking for another job. And then people from my prior company, they found out that I am interviewing at this other company. Without even me asking, they went and told the other person, hey, I heard you're interviewing her, she's amazing, absolutely hire her, and so on and so forth. And that gave me an edge, and I didn't even ask for it, because I gave them value without asking for anything. That's what networking is about. It's not always, at the last minute you're like, hey, give me a referral. I know nothing about you, what referral would I give you? Versus if we've been in conversation for over a year or a longer period, then I know everything about you and I'm more than happy to give you a referral. So that's all for today. Definitely check out Shilpa. Our best way to connect with her is on LinkedIn. You can also check out her website. It's shilpavir.com. I'll put it all in the description. She does amazing things. Even if you are not in a position right now where you're looking for direct help from her, check out her posts, check out her talks. She is amazing. She gives so much value that you will be having impact without even realizing it. And also go and tell her that, hey, I saw your talk at GHC, or I attended this video and it was great. We as content creators love to hear that. It helps us make sure we are giving the help that people need. And with that, if you haven't already, do subscribe to this channel and give this video a like, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.